Have you ever felt your world collapse in a single moment? That's exactly how I felt last Friday. I was scrolling through my phone, heart heavy, when I stumbled upon messages that froze me in place. My husband and my best friend, two people I trusted more than anyone, were secretly exchanging words dripping with intimacy. One message stood out. I can't stop thinking about last night. My chest tightened, my hands trembled, and the familiar warmth of my home felt suddenly cold and alien. Memories that once brought comfort now twisted into nightmares. Every laugh, every whispered secret between us became a lie. How could they betray me so completely? I stared at the screen, unable to move, unable to breathe. A storm of anger, heartbreak, and disbelief coursed through me. But amid the shock, a dark thought emerged. Revenge. Not recklessly, but with careful planning. I realized that I had the power to turn this betrayal against them, and that thought ignited a fire I couldn't ignore. If you want to follow the full story of betrayal, strategy, and revenge, subscribe now, because what happens next will shock you even more. After that shocking discovery, I couldn't stop replaying their messages in my mind. Every laugh, every shared memory suddenly felt tainted. But the most painful part? The little signs I had ignored for months, the late night text, the defensiveness, the way my best friend always seemed to coincidentally know things she shouldn't. I started noticing details I had brushed off before. A faint lipstick stain on his collar, glances that lingered too long, whispered phone calls ended abruptly when I entered the room. Even subtle changes in their body language screamed the truth. My heart raced every time I caught a nervous twitch or a guilty smile. It was like I was walking through a house full of invisible traps, each one reminding me that I had been blind to the betrayal right under my nose. I kept a mental log, noting patterns, inconsistencies, and hidden cues. Every small detail became a piece of a larger puzzle. The more I observed, the more I realized that patience and precision would be my greatest weapons. They didn't know I was watching, and that ignorance would become their undoing. Next, I would test them carefully, pushing just enough to uncover the truth. I couldn't confront them outright. Not yet. I needed undeniable proof. So I began testing my husband subtly, asking casual questions about his day, observing his reactions like a hawk. A pause too long, a glance that avoided mine, a nervous twitch. Each tiny signal confirmed my growing suspicion. My best friend wasn't any better. Her laughter felt forced, her stories slightly off, her eyes flicking nervously whenever I approached. Every conversation became a battlefield of hidden meanings. I smiled innocently, masking the storm inside, while mentally noting each inconsistency and lie. Every interaction was a chess move. I memorized patterns, predicted reactions, and imagined outcomes. The betrayal that once left me powerless now fueled a growing sense of control. I became both observer and strategist, knowing that patience and timing were my most dangerous weapons. And yet, a quiet fear lingered in the back of my mind. What if they sensed my awareness? One wrong move could ruin everything. The tension hung thick, both exhilarating and terrifying. Next, the first slip from my best friend would set everything in motion. It happened on a seemingly ordinary Wednesday afternoon. My best friend came over just to chat, unaware that I had been observing her for weeks. As we sat in the living room sipping tea, she laughed nervously and almost carelessly let something slip. A fleeting glance, a subtle phrase. I could feel the betrayal radiating from her. She had confessed, without realizing it, that she had been more than just a friend to my husband. I forced a calm smile, hiding the storm inside. I couldn't react. If I did, she would retreat and bury the truth forever. My heart pounded, a mix of fury and disbelief swelling within me. Every careful word she spoke, every nervous laugh, only confirmed what I already knew. I realized then that this betrayal was deeper than I ever imagined. It wasn't just a fleeting fling. It was a calculated deception by the two people I trusted most. I felt a surge of determination. This was no longer just heartbreak. It was the starting point of a plan that would make them face the consequences of their actions in ways they never anticipated. Next, the emotional storm that pushed me to act would take over. That night, the weight of betrayal hit me like a tidal wave. I collapsed onto my bed, trembling, tears streaming down my face. Every memory of love, laughter, and trust now felt poisoned. How could the two people I held closest, the man I vowed to love forever and the friend I confided in, betray me so completely? I screamed into my pillow, letting rage and heartbreak collide. The raw pain threatened to consume me, yet beneath it, a cold, calculating thought began to form. This wasn't just about hurting them. It was about reclaiming control and ensuring they faced the consequences. I imagined each step, each move, each reveal. My heart ached, but my mind was sharper than ever. I traced the messages, replayed conversations, and visualized the moment when their deceit would unravel before their eyes. Every sob, every shiver of anger fed a determination that felt unstoppable. The storm of emotions had not broken me. It had forged a plan. Next, I would transform this fury into a precise, strategic blueprint for revenge, turning heartbreak into power. After the storm of emotions, I sat in silence, letting my anger settle into cold, focused clarity. Raw fury wouldn't be enough. I needed a plan, a psychological strategy to dismantle both of them without them suspecting a thing. Every detail mattered. Insecurities and subtle interactions when they thought no one was watching. I began mapping everything out in my mind, like pieces on a chessboard. How could I provoke reactions that expose their guilt? What small calculated moves could I make to ensure they faltered? My goal wasn't mere revenge. It was psychological domination, making them feel the same panic and unease I had endured. Even as I smiled around them, the mask of normalcy hiding my fury, I rehearsed every scenario. Each word, glance, and subtle gesture became a tool. I imagined the crescendo of exposure, the moment they realized how thoroughly I had outmaneuvered them. This wasn't reckless vengeance. It was precision, patience, and strategy. Every action would build toward a climax where they'd understand too late that I'd been in control all along. Next, I would test the first subtle hints of my payback. The next morning, I began with subtle nudges. Small, almost imperceptible actions designed to unsettle them both. I casually mentioned seeing my husband at a cafe he claimed he hadn't visited, watching his eyes flicker with unease. I dropped vague hints about knowing secrets, and my best friend flinched at every word. Their confidence began to crack, revealing the panic I had been waiting for. It was intoxicating, this shift in power. I wasn't overt, just enough to plant doubt and fear. Each glance, each hesitation, each forced smile became evidence of their unraveling composure. They didn't realize that their own guilt was now working against them, and I was quietly orchestrating the chaos. I kept my mask of innocence intact, blending seamlessly into everyday life, while my mind plotted every next move. Every slip they made, every nervous tick, fed the anticipation of the eventual reveal. The psychological tension between us thickened, and I could feel control returning to my hands, piece by piece. Next, I would gather concrete proof, the irrefutable evidence that would make their deceit undeniable. Hints and unease weren't enough. I needed proof. Undeniable, concrete evidence that would expose their betrayal fully. I began collecting messages, screenshots, and timestamps, carefully documenting every hidden interaction, every call, every subtle lie, every whispered secret became a piece of the puzzle. I even tracked patterns, noticing the times and places where they acted suspiciously. Each small slip they made, each nervous glance, was a clue that strengthened my growing dossier. I memorized the details, mentally preparing the narrative that would leave them exposed and helpless. Even mundane interactions became opportunities. I observed, noted, and stored every tiny reaction. A hesitation in conversation, a subtle stutter, the quick glance that betrayed their anxiety. The web of deceit was complex, but I had it, their hidden acts into the very tools of their undoing. Soon, every secret would surface, and they would understand the true cost of their deception. Next, I would start playing the first psychological moves, letting jealousy and doubt take root. With evidence securely in hand, I began the subtle art of psychological manipulation. Small, seemingly innocent actions were my weapons. Lingering compliments to others, casual mentions of imaginary admirers, and accidental displays that I knew would trigger anxiety. I watched closely as my husband and best friend reacted, their confident facades cracking under the pressure. Every hesitant glance, every forced smile, every nervously fidgeting hand became proof that my strategy was working. I remained outwardly calm, a mask of innocence hiding the storm inside, while their uncertainty and fear quietly escalated. Each interaction reinforced the power shift. I was no longer the victim. I was the architect of their unraveling. Their panic became a silent confession, and the tension between them grew almost tangible. Each day, they grew more aware of my quiet control, and every small misstep they made fed the anticipation for the moment when all their secrets would surface. Next, an unexpected twist would threaten to derail my carefully constructed plan, but I was ready to turn it to my advantage. Just when I thought my plan was unfolding perfectly, an unexpected twist shook everything. My husband received a cryptic phone call, leaving him pale and fidgety, while my best friend suddenly became more secretive, as if hiding something urgent. My carefully orchestrated control felt threatened, and for a brief moment, fear crept in. Had someone discovered my observations? Or was there another hidden betrayal I hadn't anticipated? I forced myself to remain calm. Panic now would ruin everything. Instead, I turned this twist into an opportunity. Each subtle change in their behavior became a new clue, adding more ammunition for the eventual exposure. I monitored their every word, glance, and movement, taking mental notes and adjusting my strategy on the fly. The unpredictability only heightened the psychological tension. Revenge isn't just about anger. It's about patience, observation, and seizing the perfect moment. The stakes had risen, but I felt more focused than ever. Every misstep they made now served my purpose, and soon they would realize that no one could outmaneuver me. Next, the confrontation that would bring emotions to the surface was about to unfold. The tension had reached its peak one evening when I orchestrated a gathering under the guise of a casual dinner. Friends and family were around, unaware of the storm brewing beneath my calm exterior. My husband and best friend entered, their nerves barely concealed, as I subtly guided the conversation toward topics that would make them uneasy. Every question, every remark was carefully chosen to test their composure. Their glances betrayed panic. Nervous laughter spilled from my best friend, while my husband's jaw tightened with every word. I could see the cracks forming in their confident facades, and it was intoxicating. I let the confrontation simmer, never fully revealing all I knew, letting the psychological tension do its work. The uncertainty tormented them more than any outright accusation could. Each hesitated reply, each fleeting look of guilt reinforced the power shift. They were exposed emotionally, though still unaware of the full extent of my plan. Next, I would escalate the stakes, moving the reveal from subtle tension to undeniable public exposure. Private confrontations weren't enough. To make them feel the full weight of their betrayal, I needed a public stage, an audience that would witness the unraveling of their deception. I meticulously planned every detail, the right time, the right place, and the right people. Friends, family, and colleagues would all see the truth unfold. I orchestrated casual conversations to subtly heighten their anxiety, dropped hints that suggested I knew more than I revealed, and arranged the gathering so that every reaction could be observed. Every glance they exchanged, every nervous gesture, fed the tension in the room. The atmosphere grew thick with unspoken anticipation, and I could see panic flickering across their faces. While outwardly calm, my mind ran through every possible outcome, preparing for each slip they might make. They had no idea that the evidence I had collected would soon become undeniable. The power dynamics had shifted completely. I held control, and soon they would face the consequences of their betrayal in front of everyone. Next, the dramatic reveal. Part 1 would bring shock and disbelief to all. The night of the gathering arrived. The room buzzed with laughter and casual chatter, completely unaware of the storm about to break. I stayed calm, every move measured, my expression serene, while anticipation thrummed beneath the surface. My husband and best friend entered, confident yet visibly tense under the subtle pressure I had built. I began with small pointed remarks, innocent on the surface but loaded with implication. Their glances grew furtive, smiles faltered. Each reaction confirmed my careful observation over weeks. Then, I let the first piece of evidence slip. A screenshot, a message, a casual mention of a secret meeting. The air changed instantly, silence fell, eyes widened, and their confident facade started to crumble. Friends and family sensed the tension, whispers began, and the weight of unspoken truth pressed down on the room. I didn't need to shout or accuse. The anxiety in their expressions said everything. Each subtle slip they made brought the crowd closer to understanding the betrayal they had tried so hard to hide. Next, the dramatic reveal. Part 2 would explode the tension into chaos. The silence was deafening. Every eye in the room was on my husband and best friend, as their deception became undeniable. Their confidence shattered instantly. His face went pale, jaw tight with panic, while her hands trembled, tears forming as the weight of exposure hit her. The whispers around us amplified their unease, and I watched, composed, as the full impact of their betrayal unfolded. I let the tension stretch, prolonging their discomfort without saying a word. Every stuttered excuse, every flinched glance confirmed the depth of their deceit. Friends exchanged knowing looks. The atmosphere thickened with shock and disbelief. I could see the psychological blow taking hold. Humiliation, regret, and fear swelling visibly in their expressions. It was more than just public exposure. It was the precise culmination of weeks of observation and strategic planning. The stakes had been raised to their highest point, and they finally realized that I had been in control all along. The power had shifted completely, and there was no going back. Next, the ultimate payback would deliver the final decisive blow. With the public reveal shaking their world, I moved in for the final act. Calm, composed, I detailed the full extent of their betrayal. Every secret message, every hidden meeting, every lie was laid bare before the room. I didn't shout. I didn't beg for attention. My voice was steady, deliberate, each fact hitting like a hammer. My husband's face turned ashen, words failing him, while my best friend's bravado crumbled into tears and stammered apologies. Friends and family watched in stunned silence, witnessing the ultimate reckoning of trust violated. The psychological impact was total. The humiliation, guilt, and panic radiating from them was undeniable. Every glance, every stutter, every attempt to explain only confirmed the meticulous control I had maintained throughout. Their deceit had been turned against them, and they understood too late that I had anticipated every move. The room's tension was palpable, the atmosphere heavy with justice delivered in its most precise form. Next, guilt and fallout would explore the internal consequences that their betrayal now inflicted. After the ultimate exposure, the room was thick with silence. My husband and best friend were no longer confident, no longer in control. They were shadows haunted by their own actions. Every glance from friends and family reminded them of the devastation they caused. I watched quietly, letting them fully experience the weight of their betrayal. My husband avoided my eyes, his voice barely audible when he tried to speak. My best friend trembled, tears streaking her face, shame consuming her every movement. Their emotional collapse confirmed the power of patience and strategy over rash confrontation. I realized revenge wasn't just about exposing lies. It was about letting them confront the consequences of their choices. Even as I observed, a calm satisfaction settled within me. Weeks of tension and heartbreak transformed into clarity and control. Their guilt was real, crushing, and irreversible, and it reaffirmed that meticulous planning could deliver justice in ways raw anger never could. Next, An unexpected support would step in, adding a new layer of psychological complexity. Just as the emotional storm seemed to settle, an unexpected ally appeared. A close friend who had quietly suspected the betrayal all along stepped forward, offering support and validation. Their presence was like a lifeline, reminding me I wasn't alone in facing the aftermath. They helped me navigate the tense atmosphere, offering subtle guidance on how to maintain composure while dealing with my husband and best friend. More importantly, their encouragement reinforced my sense of control, reminding me that revenge wasn't only about exposure, it was about reclaiming my power, dignity, and peace of mind. Meanwhile, the betrayers remained trapped in their guilt. The stark contrast between my composure and their panic made their unease more pronounced. Every glance from my ally reminded them that I had support, strategy, and clarity on my side, while they were left exposed and isolated. The dynamics had shifted completely, and I realized the psychological advantage was now firmly mine. I could see the fear and regret etched into their faces, and I knew the final moves of my plan would deliver even more impact. Next, a twist in perspective would reveal just how deeply I had anticipated their every move. Just when it seemed the story had reached its peak, I revealed a side of myself they never expected: my complete awareness and strategic foresight. I had anticipated every lie, every gesture, every hidden meeting. Their shock wasn't just at being exposed, it was at realizing how thoroughly I had controlled every outcome. They began to grasp the reality. I wasn't a victim flailing in despair. I had orchestrated everything with precision, turning their deception into tools for their own undoing. My calm composure, previously mistaken for ignorance, was actually a mask hiding meticulous planning. The psychological shift was absolute. They were no longer manipulators, they were pawns in my game. Friends and family too saw the transformation. My intelligence, patience, and composure stood in stark contrast to their panic and guilt. Every glance, every whispered apology only reinforced that the power had shifted entirely. This new perspective reframed everything, turning the story from betrayal to a tale of calculated justice. The stakes had never been higher, and the final emotional resolution was just around the corner. Next, the emotional resolution would show the aftermath and lasting impact of their betrayal. With the twists revealed and the betrayers fully confronted, a sense of calm finally began to settle over me. The heartbreak, rage, and anxiety that had consumed weeks of my life transformed into clarity and control. I had faced betrayal head-on, executed a precise plan, and reclaimed my power in the most deliberate way possible. My husband and best friend were left to wrestle with the full weight of their actions, while I moved forward, stronger and wiser. The emotional storm that had threatened to overwhelm me was now a source of strength, a reminder that patience, observation, and strategy could turn despair into empowerment. Even friends and family noticed the shift. Where there had once been doubt and sympathy, there was now respect for how I handled the situation. Calm, intelligent, and in complete control. Their chaos became the catalyst for my growth, proving that betrayal doesn't have to destroy you, it can refine and fortify you. Next, the final reflection and engagement will conclude the story, leaving lingering thoughts on trust, revenge, and resilience. Looking back, the betrayal of my husband and best friend taught me more than heartbreak ever could. It revealed the depths of human deceit, but also the strength that comes from patience, observation, and strategy. Revenge wasn't just about exposing them. It was about reclaiming my life, asserting control, and letting justice unfold precisely. Even now, weeks later, I can still feel the tension of that night, the fear in their eyes, the whispers of friends piecing together the truth. It's a strange mix of satisfaction and melancholy. Satisfaction for the power I regained, melancholy for the relationships lost forever. Yet, I wouldn't trade that clarity for anything. Betrayal doesn't have to destroy you. It can refine you, sharpen your instincts, and teach resilience. To anyone watching who has faced similar deception, remember, you can rise above it. Plan wisely, stay composed, and never let heartbreak dictate your actions. If you've been captivated by this story, hit subscribe to follow more tales of suspense, betrayal, and revenge. You won't want to miss the next shocking story that proves trust can be broken and consequences are inevitable.